Speak loud and clear. In fact, I think we got a new system coming in maybe, so.
Next month.
All right, maybe that'll help. Okay, tonight, the agenda's before you. Roll call, everyone's present. You have the agenda before you. Any additions or deletions at this time? Okay. The board is, the agenda's before you is approved. And tonight we have our Washtenaw County Sheriffs with us, standing up by the wall there. Anyway, if you remember, you were here last month. Trustee Trent had requested that we had bring in our Sheriff's Department, and we're glad to have them tonight. Officer Hunt and also Officer Gorney. I think most people know John patrols the streets many times. I think what I like about our officers that patrol, I think it's a good rapport with the community. Many times we have people call in and say that you know, John or Matt have been to their houses and worked with them on many occasions, and it's just a great way to have a close community and have these guys working for us. So tonight we just kind of wanted to, if anybody has questions for them. I know a couple of the issues we have had here recently. I know a lot of people talk about the truck enforcement. I've talked to Keith about it, and I know that you've been trying to enforce it the best you can. And I don't know if you have any reports or anything you can tell us here recently how we're trying to enforce and do a better job with that. So maybe we'll just start talking about the truck ordinance.
The one thing statistically, of course, is the way our stats and the way we capture our numbers. Unfortunately, we're not able to determine specifically any individual stops or citations that were related to that ordinance versus any other traffic violation that we might be stopping a vehicle for. So I don't have any hard, solid numbers on we've made this many stops for the ordinance based on since it was adopted. So, but I think Deputy Gorney can probably speak a little bit to his attempts to enforce the ordinance for you. So.
Right. And like Sergeant Hunt said, we've been trying to beef up our patrols regarding the trucks. And that involves bouncing our shifts around a little bit. Deputy Rich and myself, we've been coming in on certain days earlier, not just strictly afternoons. We'd be coming in at 7 o'clock and so forth, and try to make additional stops. What we do find, there's a lot of truck traffic that goes through the hamlet, and for the most part, most of the trucks that go through the hamlet are legal. I think just for instance, last week I came in on an early shift, and I observed at least 30 trucks that went through the hamlet. One was in violation. Maybe over the last month or so, within the last 8 weeks, I probably wrote maybe 3 or 4 truck violation citations. Deputy Risha has about the same number. So with that, we've been bouncing around. We've been trying to sit on 5 Mile, sit in the hamlet here, and try to make additional stops. And we, together with Deputy Rich and I, we do as much as we can with the amount of hours that we're able to work, you know, with all the other runs. I don't know if anybody had any additional questions.
Yeah.
Sure.
Is that okay, Barry? You mentioned 30 trucks went through the hamlet and one was in violation.
Correct.
So I'm assuming you stopped all 30 trucks?
No. At this point now, we know what truck is in a violation. Like garbage trucks are okay. Certain skid trucks that are taking garbage to the dumps.
Or just visual inspection?
Right. Now, a gravel hauler would be in violation if it had the tongue and groove or the fifth wheel, let's say. That would be a violation, and we stop those trucks.
So it's important, and just for the public to know, too, if you would like to get a copy of the truck ordinance, we have them in the Township office and also on the website. And it, again, people will see a gravel hauler go through the hamlet, and you gotta look at the truck closely. The way it was written, and I know we had gone over this many times, what the trucks look like the best way to explain it is, to me, to understand, is that if it's like a dump truck pulling, the dump truck can be fixed to the lead trailer, and then behind it would be a trailer, would be called a short double, which would be allowed to come through the hamlet. So, but if it's a cab, or like a fifth wheel, that's pulling a lead, just a lead by itself is automatically over 40,000 pounds, we've weighed it, they are illegal and they would be pulled over. If it's a fifth wheel pulling a lead plus a trailer behind it, that's illegal also. So it's really, if the cab is fixed to the truck, then they are legal to go through. That's how the ordinance is written. So it's not so much about the weight factor, because some of the garbage trucks are over 40,000 pounds. And so it's not a weight issue, it's more of the truck, the fifth wheel that's not allowed to come through the hamlet.
Absolutely.
Yes, Mr. Trent.
Good evening, thank you for joining us tonight. I noticed in your monthly summary report that there's over 3 times the number of traffic stops in the month of May compared to a year ago. Is the increase attributable to the evaluation of
the trucks?
Trucks?
No. No, we've been advised to step up and make more traffic stops. Overall, the whole county. They want deputies to make a few more stops.
So all the people that I'm responsible for, because I'm responsible for Superior, Salem, and Everett Township, just in general, when the deputies are on free solo patrol and are not tied up with service requests, we're asking them to step up more traffic enforcement, because again, that's one of the key things that we're requested to do from the citizens in whatever area we're working. So just trying to step up that enforcement a little bit at this point.
Is there a certain area of the township that you're seeing more issues with, speeding or enforcement concerns?
It's pretty much, it's spread out. We do get a lot of 6-mile speeders. That's where I sit a lot. I sit on Territorial. I get a handful of speeders there. And it could be simple as blowing the stop sign when you exit M14 and you don't come to a complete stop. There'll be a lot of stops right there doing that. But for the most part, I would say your main mile roads, 6 Mile, Territorial, Pontiac Trail, you're always going to have speeders and so forth. So and that's what we try to lock down on.
Is speeding a concern at all on Curtis Road south of Territorial since the speed limit was increased to 55? And
I used to do a lot of traffic enforcement through there, and when I sit there now, I very seldom am able to write a citation during that little section. So not like it used to be.
Going back to trucks for just one moment, the trucks that you are finding that are going through the hamlet that are illegal, are those trucks that are part of our business community on Shub Road, or are those outside entities that are trying to make a delivery to the landfill or somewhere on Shub Road?
It's been a combination of all three. There's been Kalo trucks, there's been Jackie's trucks, and there's been independent truckers. So it's a combination of all three entities.
Thank you.
The issues for home invasion, I noticed there's 3 of them on the list. Is that, have they got any kind of a handle around those?
We don't have any specific suspects or leads at this point. There's been several back in May, several in March, kind of all clustered together generally. I think in both instances, at least 2 of the 3 incidents were on the same day and within several blocks or even right next door to each other. And even down in Superior, We had a couple going on, same kind of descriptions of the homes. So usually it's the houses that are set a little bit off the roadway where there's not clear view from the roadway. And so generally they'll come knock on the door and see if nobody's home, nobody answers the door, then they go around back and we'll throw a brick or something through the back window or the walk-in door wall, and then ransack the home from there. Generally, what we find with these kind of incidents, it's usually drug addicts trying to get quick fix for money so that they can feed their habit. But at this point, we don't have any specific leads on any of those incidents at this point.
I did turn in some gloves for DNA, that's the only thing I've had so far.
But again, getting that back from the state police lab can take time, and then it also depends, a hit off the glove, but then it depends, is that person's DNA in the database? If they're a felon, then that DNA should be in the database. If they're not a felon, then it's unlikely to necessarily come up with a match.
But just be vigilant, just watch. If you see suspicious trucks or cars driving around, going up driveways, just call. Don't ever hesitate to call.
Yeah, just if you see something, say something. That's the biggest thing we can tell you. You guys live in the community.
Time do you know these are happening?
Usually during the day. Usually during the day while people are at work or school.
Afternoon and that, or?
Anytime. Well, it's hard to pinpoint the exact time.
Oh, that's right, okay.
Right.
Because usually it's when people are leaving in the morning, they go to work at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, they come home at 5, 6 o'clock at night, and then they find that the house is broken into. So sometimes we can narrow down that time frame depending if any of the neighbors saw anything that was a little unusual, or, and not with any of these particular incidents, but a lot of people have like those Ring doorbells now. They have the video system, things like that. Those are actually very useful for us because it can tie down a specific time frame, number one. But also you get video of the potential suspect and maybe even a vehicle that they might have been in. And so what we found in a lot of areas is that kind of technology becomes more and more prevalently used. It is definitely an assistant to us for at least putting out, BOLs looking for a suspect vehicle or somebody that matches if somebody's going up to houses or doors or whatnot. So if you're interested in doing any of that kind of stuff, it's a nominal fee, and just switching out a doorbell is not too hard, but something as simple as that can go a long way to helping us.
We did have a home invasion last week, I think, where the residents were home.
Yeah, it took them.
Are you familiar with that one?
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
So-
Apparently the homeowner was home during the day once again, and somebody was walking around the house.
Oh, yeah, I remember. He came to the back door. He's basically at the back window.
Right.
And the homeowner saw him there and scared him off, and he ran off. We did do a dog track. The dog tracked through the fields near the home, and basically it appears they probably got into a vehicle at that point. So.
Okay, yes, Jim?
Mr. Supervisor, I want to take the opportunity with Deputy Gorney and Deputy Rich's boss here to say thank you for the support that the two deputies provided the fire department. They provide immense support from everything from car accidents to medicals to house fires. They make the scene safe while we're trying to take care of whether it's a patient or not. So we don't get oftentimes to say thank you, so thank you for the deputies that have been outstanding support to our department. So I just want to take this opportunity to say thanks for your help.
Appreciate it. You guys are lucky. Gorney and Rich are, they're both top-notch guys. So.
Second.
Especially when their shifts come maybe up for a bid,
Oh, yeah.
we want them.
Fair enough.
We want them. Any other questions to the officers?
Is there a place where we can go to see what's going on in those kind of situations, or to see where these reports are, so that we're aware of what's going on in the community?
Do you get any kind of the Nixle messages at all? Have you signed up for that? What you can do is you can go to the Sheriff's Office website.
Okay.
We have a Nixle system, so what happens a lot of times if we do have a home invasion, I will put out a Nixle message
And
frequently.
it's targeted to the area?
And so, yeah, so
Okay.
basically, I basically get to set a radius, so I won't put the address to like throw it out there that so-and-so's
Right.
house got broken into,
Right.
but I'll basically put like, say, the 6300 block of Brookville. And then I'll set a point radius of 1 to 2 miles, and just anybody that's within that radius would get that message, and you get either an email or a text message, depending on how you signed up for the program.
Mhm.
And it'll just give you some very basic cursory information, hey, this happened in your area. And so,
Does that happen fairly quickly? So like, so for instance, if a neighbor happens to be in the area at that moment and they see something.
right,
and-
for the Nixle message, no, not
No,
necessarily.
okay.
Because a lot of times that's basically up to me, and so it's gonna be
Whatever you-
depending on my schedule and when I see, if I'm working and it happens, then I'll try to do it, but if I'm not working when that report or that call comes out, or if I'm tied up with something, it may be like a day delayed. But again, for these things, you know.
Yeah, it's nice to know.
It's
So
nice to
it's on
know.
the Washtenaw County.
Washtenaw County Sheriff's Office website, if
Okay,
you look,
thank you.
it'll be Nixle, Nixle, I believe.
Okay.
And you should be able to sign up for those notifications. But so for home invasions, and a lot of times if they're, we don't get many of these up in the Salem area, but larceny from autos where people are going in and breaking into cars.
Yeah.
I'll send them out for those a lot of times in some of the other neighborhoods. But up here, you guys don't generally have a lot of neighborhoods that get rashes of those, so.
And you do a good job giving us a report, so if you get it on our website under the board packet, there is a list of some of the home invasions and everything. And it talks about the traffic stops and everything that's on our website too. All right, any other questions for?
Supervisor, if I could,
Yeah.
to the deputies, you currently, getting back to the speed limit issue, you currently enforce under the State Motor Vehicle Code for speed limit.
Correct.
Would it be easier for you from an enforcement standpoint if we had a local ordinance regarding, violations of the traffic code?
It's really going to be easier. We would still conduct our enforcement the same way. The benefit would be towards the township itself. I believe if you had your own numbers or ordinances or citations that were directed to the township, I think then the township perhaps gets a portion of the funds that come in through citations. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but the township would benefit if you changed it to, township ordinances.
And prosecutions you currently do for speed, for traffic violations, do through what, the county prosecutor?
Correct. In that case, if you had your own township ordinances, you would have to hire an attorney. I believe, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe you would have to have an attorney to represent the township in court for the traffic violations.
Who would that be? Sorry.
But from our end, it's basically, you're checking one box or another. It's either state law or local ordinance. So from our perspective,
Right.
just in how we operate, it doesn't make any difference
Doesn't make
whatsoever.
it easier one way or the other?
Nope.
Okay.
I don't get a commission, in fact.
If you
Hey,
did,
anybody
those
else?
numbers would go up.
Yeah, no kidding.
Gary, I have
Yeah.
a question. Both of them have been brought up already, break-ins and speeders. I had an attempt at my house a few years back. My question is the response time. It was well over an hour before the state policeman showed up.
Right.
They threw a brick through the window. I had a glass break on there. The alarm went off instantly. But it wasn't, I think there was a card in my front door from the state police. I was working up in Flint. By the time I got home, it was all said and done. They didn't enter the home, but the response time was an hour and 15 minutes.
Right.
I just recently had a false alarm that I had missed the call from the alarm company, and this was just a few months ago. It was 2 hours later that I got back with the alarm company and determined that it was a false alarm.
Right.
They still had, nobody had even dispatched.
Right.
How do you guys feel about response time? I mean, is the word out in the streets that they've got probably a good hour to go into a house and
Well,
possibly ransack and get away free and clear?
When it comes to alarms and how alarm calls will handle, obviously, between the way we would handle it and the state police, there's gonna be some differences there, and because they could be all over the county.
Oh, I understand, sure.
Realistically. So, but if our guys are working and they're not on anything, they're gonna be there, within minutes, I would expect. But if they're on other runs are like an alarm call is actually a very low priority run for us,
Right.
unless there's extenuating circumstances that somebody said, I saw somebody going into this house.
I see.
If we get that call, then we're pulling people from Superior, maybe even Ipsy. We're coming up here as hot and hard as we possibly can, because there's a known factor there.
Okay.
But if it's just an alarm, 98% of alarm calls are false.
Okay.
And so that being the case, without any additional information, it's number one, it's not safe for us to go lights and sirens to those types of runs, because then we're putting other people in jeopardy for what's most likely just, for whatever reason, the alarm's not functioning, the wind blew, or, something happened. And And a lot of the false alarms we do get are the same repeat offenders over and over again because whatever's going on with that system.
Sure.
So again, that's something we kind of triage the information that comes in. So one of the first things we'll ask a lot of times is, hey, do we have any previous false alarms at that residence?
I see.
So if we do a lot, then again, that kind of lowers it down on the triage scale as far as how we're going to respond, how quickly we can if we've got other things going on. But if there's nothing going on, we're always going to respond as quickly as possible. And then it also depends on the time of day. If either Risha or Gorney are actually working or not, that's going to make a difference for us. Because outside of that, then it's going to be the state police responding.
Okay.
So.
And then again, again with speeders, thank you. On the weekends, if it's even on a Sunday, and I know the summer months increase on speeders, but it seems, I'll be out there putzing around the house, and you can hear, like, if they come to a stop, I'm at Curtis and North Territorial. They come to a stop at Curtis and North Territorial, and they go on, say, west or east on Territorial. It's like a free-for-all. They just open up their vehicles or motorcycles. Is it just because they know there's a lack of presence and they've got that opportunity?
I think it's just that country atmosphere. People feel like, oh, there's nobody out around. There's nobody around here. I can do what I want. Kind of attitude. My best guess. I'm not a psychologist, but that's what I would assume would be the case. I know my dad actually owned a sports car when I was young, and we lived in Plymouth Township. And when he wanted to come drive fast, we came out here.
So
Just
that's everybody.
100% honest.
Yeah, everybody pretty much knows that. Then.
Yeah.
And you gotta realize too, we cover only 80 hours a week. Out of the whole week, there's only 2 deputies here for 80 hours. So you may see us a lot, but we're actually not here as much as everybody else is. That would be the state police or county or something like that. So 80 hours is just a portion of the whole weekly schedule. So,
Thank you.
Okay, good. Anybody else? Any questions for Jim?
Yeah, how much of the M14 is involved in your work, or do you have any presence there?
We generally don't work the highway. Every once in a while, we'll do a little bit on the highway, but 99% of the time, the sheriff's office stays off the highway because of our agreements with the state police. So the state police handle the enforcement actually on the freeways themselves, for the most part.
Anybody else?
One quick question. Are is it 8 hours and then the other sheriff gets the other 8 hours, or are you ever working together with the same block of time?
we work different shifts.
There's different shifts.
Correct, right. We very seldom work at the same time. Our shifts don't overlap. So if he's working afternoons, or if I'm working afternoons, Deputy Risha might be working days.
Okay, so we get at least 16 hours, so to speak, of protection.
5 days a week.
5 days a week, right. Because we're both off. We work 40 hours each. So
Right.
if I'm on my leave days, Deputy Risha usually works my leave days, and then I work his leave days. So
there's somebody here during most days,
48 hours.
whether it's day shift or afternoon shift. And then several days a week, there'll be one here for day shift.
Anybody else? Again, we want to thank for, just not only friendship, but just for the communication and everything. That when people complain, we, pass it on to you, and people just, the response from the neighbors when there's issues, sometimes it's just neighbors and stuff like that. We appreciate working it out, and I know sometimes that can be tough, so appreciate your service. Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on down, we have a short agenda tonight. We're down to public comment. Yes.
Just want to start off by saying it's never easy criticizing your elected officials, let you know that. But we have a constitutional right, and I hope you realize that, to criticize our elected officials' job performance and redress our government. And it's part of the oversight process that residents exercise. Let me start out by saying, at the May 8, 2018 Salem Township Board meeting, Supervisor Gary Whitaker abruptly decided to invoke meeting rules and now refuses to answer resident questions during public comment. This decision came directly after resident questions and criticisms regarding concrete crushing operation that was allowed under the Whitaker administration. Concerns were how the noise, dust, and truck traffic continue to ruin our peaceful rural community and residents' quality of life. Also, there were questions and criticisms regarding why the board accepted a $10 million grant that will greatly subsidize the developer's infrastructure costs for the USD, but failed to research whether a grant was available prior to the board approval to spend $500,000 from our township reserve account for the Hamlet Streetscape project. Residents contend that developers and big business are given special treatment over residents under Supervisor Whitaker's watch. After the vote, a resident pressed Supervisor Whitaker, and he admitted he owned property in the hamlet. As it turns out, his personal property is in the center of the Streetscape project, and it appears he will directly benefit from this project that will be paid for with township money. Supervisor Whitaker voted on this motion. So now, after years of Supervisor Whitaker establishing a precedent of engaging in discussion and answering questions during public comment, he chooses to not stand on his own 2 feet, and he hides behind meeting rules. Obviously, Supervisor Whitaker is not able to face difficult issues head-on and says he will now answer resident questions during supervisor comment, where he will not allow resident input, questions, or rebuttal. This conveniently gives him the last word. How can our community rely on a supervisor who runs and hides from a little criticism from residents? How will Supervisor Whitaker be able to deal with all the big challenges facing our community? Furthermore, after approximately 5 years in public office, Supervisor Whitaker continues to blame others for his and the board's mistakes and incompetence. I believe our community here deserves better. In closing, I've heard you say a number of times after being criticized that the person doesn't like you. I would suggest that you not put so much importance on yourself. I've never heard anyone at these meetings say they didn't like you, but I've heard plenty say they don't like what you're doing to our community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next.
Good evening. My name is Tom Burke. I live in Pittsfield Township. I'm here basically to introduce myself because I am running for 14A District Judge in November. I'm a resident of Pittsfield Township. I practice in a small firm in Ann Arbor. I've been a practicing lawyer for 36 and a half plus years. I've been practicing in Washtenaw County for 25 years. I do primarily civil litigation of all types in a small 4-person firm, E.B. Connor, Smiley, and Burke. To give you a little bit of, for people that don't know, first of all, I just want to say this is the big, I've done like 15 of these. This is by far the biggest crowd I've had at a council or board meeting. So I'll take a little extra time. But 14A is the entire county except for the city of Ann Arbor and Ypsilanti Township, because they each have their own district courts. The district court is the court that handles misdemeanor criminal cases, landlord-tenant cases, and civil cases under $25,000. The district judges also rotate and hold the preliminary examinations for felony cases that come from the circuit court. There are 3 judges in the 14A district. The one sits in Chelsea, that's Dick Conlon, Judge Conlon. One sits in the city of Ypsilanti, that's Kirk Tabby. And one sits in 14A1 at Hogback, which is Cedric Simpson. He is the person I'm running against. So I'm just trying to make sure people know who I am. My name's spelled a little different. It's B-O-U-R-Q-U-E. It's French, but I pronounce it Burke, or at least my parents did, and so I do. Just want people to understand that the ballot in November will be fairly long. Lots of issues, maybe even 2 or 3 referendums on the ballot. The judicial ballot is at the bottom or at the back, depending on how the ballot is done. My my race is the only contested judicial, race in the county. All the other ones are uncontested. So there's also, by the way, there's also a fourth facility on Maple Road in Salem that the judges going to have. I believe Salem is in 14A1 for all the civil cases. So I just sort of want to let people know that I'm running. It's a long way off. It's November. There's no primary. No incumbent has ever lost in this county, so I do have a challenge ahead of me. If anybody has any questions, I'm going to stick around for the whole meeting. If you have questions or any issues that you're aware of that your township deals with the court or would like to see things work out better, or criticisms, I'm happy to sit down and talk with anybody at any time. So just wanted to say hello and let you know that I'm running.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey, anybody else? Fine.
I want to know if public comment is a place where we try to go for the next election coming up, where people speak on things that they're trying to make themselves look important. We have been through all of this about the grant money and everything, and it was all settled. It's been in the paper, it's been in everything else, and now it comes back in an entirely different version, which is not correct. So I think that if people are going to grandstand to run for election or whatever they need to do, that's not the place in public comment.
Brian?
Mr. Supervisor, I'm not running for public office ever again. Very clear.
Is that a promise?
That's a promise. Mr. Plato, that doesn't mean that I might not become a lawyer. That's actually a lot easier.
I'm telling you.
Mr. Whitaker, I think Mr. Walde hit it on the head that basically I really haven't heard anybody say they don't like you either. And I know you're a humble man, and I know that you wouldn't bring this up, but I think everybody in Salem Township is proud of your acknowledgement, or the acknowledgement given to you as Citizen of the Year. I know it's for the South Lyon Chamber, as well as the surrounding community, so I just want to make that a public record, or put that on the record. You would never mention it here, but I think Mr. Wolsey agreed that he's never really heard anybody say they don't like you. So on behalf of all the citizens of Salem, I think we're very proud of having you as a supervisor and Citizen of the Year.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anyone else? All right. All right, comments tonight. First of all, you were here not last Saturday, Saturday before for our Flag Day. I think next year is our 40th year, is that true? Again, if there's anything to be in this position or a board member and be at Flag Day and see our community come together and the parties that are through the hamlet and stuff during the fireworks, it's just a great evening. And the people that volunteer and do this, they're just amazing. You know, you get here early in the morning, just watch them participate and the parade. It seemed like, or some of the people who were running it saying that it was one of the biggest crowds maybe they had this year, even though the weather was a little bit off. But it's just a great community thing to do, especially with the new people who move in and you get to meet them. And we got some new folks just bought the Blue House back here who I think it's Julie and Joe, I think it is, just bought the house next to, right here at the end of the block, and they fixed it up, done a beautiful job, and it's they're just so excited to live here. And then Kevin and his wife are here, they just built a new house in the hamlet, and they're a great asset to our community, and these are the fun things about our community, and it's just great. So I just want to thank all the volunteers and the people who were a part of that last 2 weeks ago, and I know I appreciate all the hard work that you do. And also to the people who can contribute to that, business owners and residents who, that's totally funded by that. The township participates a little bit in some of the stuff, the tents and stuff that are on the property, but everything else is really paid for by the community, so we appreciate that. Okay, down to our consent agenda, Mr. Winsley.
I move that Salem Township approve the following consent agenda items. We have the minutes of May 8th, 2018, regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. On page 4 of those minutes, there's a date change that I need to make. It says May 8th, and I need to actually change it to June the 12th. But other than that, it looks good. We have disbursements for the month of May out of the general fund of $147,806.62. We have payroll of $51,159.29. Paycor charged us $193.64 for payroll. Out of the sewer fund, we have disbursements of $15,429.45. That's checks 2038 through 2041. Disbursements out of the escrow fund, we have $1,577.50. And one check out of the MEDC fund of $89,571.99. Now for the invoices that are for June, we have general fund invoices of $113,673.13. Invoices of the sewer fund of $21,732.67. Out of the escrow fund, $20,881.68. And invoices that will be coming out of the MEDC fund, $99,483.50. So do we have a second for this?
I'll second.
Okay. John Daniel seconds. Any questions on the consent agenda?
I'd just like to make note that the escrow fund is getting very low.
Okay. You just had a letter go out in the mail yesterday to address it. Okay, any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda is passed. Mr. Converse.
Okay, I mentioned this last week. Mr. Supervisor, I move the Salem Township approve the request to go out for bid for the replacement of the 2 window door walls in the township foyer for the attached specifications.
I'll second. Reggie, go ahead. Mr. Lucas seconds it.
As I mentioned last week, or last month, that we were going out for bids, and I finally found 3 companies that would give us a bid on it, and checked with different door suppliers, and have settled on one of the doors that was rated one of the better doors for a sliding door. The other 2 doors, the north wall, is going to be the same as it is now, double swing. These 2 doors going into this hall, and the other one will be windowed, glass or aluminum window doors rather than the wood. So we're replacing basically 7 doors and putting the 1 slider back in. The slider will be an automatic open, so when you walk up, you just it'll open for you and you go back in. One caveat is that there'll be a sensor on the inside. You may have to hug a little bit more to the left-hand side or the north side of the lock going back and forth, otherwise it might open on you. So after a couple of times, I think you'll know which side to walk on. Other than that, we're kind of encouraged by, I think a sliding door is really kind of the way, because it really gives you an open, just a welcome feeling when you walk in and it opens up for you and you don't have to sit there.
I mean, the doors are deteriorating. You can see when we leave tonight, see what's happening up there. So they need to be replaced.
They are old, they're gone. And the other thing it is, I thought we could try to fix them, but those are a 5-inch casing, and they don't make a 5-inch casing anymore. They only make a 4.5, so they can't. We don't have any way of decent deteriorating them. But the bottom hinge is gone too. So.
Okay, any other questions on the going out for bid on the doors?
I have a question.
Yes.
What happens after hours when we have to get in?
Pardon?
What happens after hours to get into that sliding door? Is that going to be a problem?
No, it'll be locked, it's basically electric switch to lock.
So,
You mean if you're-
You know, like if when we're having our meeting
Right.
and I have to be able to open up, will there be a
Yeah,
way?
there'll be exterior, there'll be ways of doing it.
Okay.
Yeah, we want to make sure we can get in.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
understand. Thank you.
Okay, all right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion's passed. All right, we're down to the clerk's revenue expense report. Chief Rockwell.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. For the month of May, we had 45 requests for calls for emergencies. The average response time is 5 minutes and 53 seconds. Approximately 80% of those calls related to medical. We did have three vehicle fires. So we are starting to get into the burn season, so we ask the folks keep an eye again on any of the fires. Make sure you get the burn permit. Burn permit explains all the restrictions and limitations of what the township allows for burning. The other thing was earlier, the deputy for mentioning about Nixle. I strongly recommend that you get enrolled with Nixle. It's free. We send out all kinds of alerts, not just the sheriff's office, but the fire department does that. We try to get road closures, major incidents, so we'll try to get through the Nixle system. The sheriff's office is very active in using Nixle. If you set it up in your phone and you travel, your GPS will actually alert you as you go through different areas, because many police departments use Nixle. So it's free for the signing, and I would recommend, again, for anybody that wants to know what's going on in the community, sign up for Nixle. The last thing I want to report was, I think at the last board meeting, I talked about a very bad accident we had with a young lady on 7 Mile in front of the golf course. I had seen a YouTube video where she was wheeled down for graduation, so it looks like she's going to survive the accident and actually was able to attend her graduation. So very thankful for that, and hopefully, I'm sure it's going to be a long recovery. I'm very glad to see that she survived that accident. It was touchy, I can tell you, for a few days. Wear your seatbelts. Wear your seatbelts. Wear your seatbelts.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Any general updates on anything the board members want to talk about? Ed, do you have any updates on anything?
Just briefly, if I can, Mr. Supervisor, with regard to the infrastructure in the USD, Stantec, our engineers are about 50% of the way through the design phase. There's been some issue with regard to where to locate the water tower for the water system. It looks like right now it's been narrowed down to 2 different locations. One is on the church property just off of Napier Road, south of M14. Showstack would actually have to purchase that property if we're going to use that. The other location would be off of the M14 Gopherson interchange, which is township-owned property, which I think is the most logical place for it. One of the problems with the church property is that there's also an American tower, cell tower there, which we're trying to determine if the tank would have to be built higher to avoid interference with that water tower. If that's the case, then it obviously would be cost prohibitive, and it would be back at the interchange then. So as soon as that issue is resolved, that's kind of holding up temporarily the continuing design of the water system. My understanding is that Stantec has billed about $187,000 to date for the design phase. They're going to be billing, I think, another $100,000 this month, and that's all, of course, being paid out of that MEDC grant that we received from the state of Michigan. So, we have a meeting with the MDEQ on June 20th of this month to present the plans for the sewer system. And then on July 24th, we're meeting with the Washington County Road Commission with regard to the Chubb Road 5 Mile Road paving project.
Very good.
Will we update that?
All right. Right, the Curry Road project is supposed to, I thought it was supposed to start this week, so we're kind of waiting to see if that happens. So, okay, so moving on down to public comment. Okay, Wayne?
Yeah, the board just unanimously approved the consent agenda and included in the consent agenda the minutes of the May 8th, 2018 regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. I have a copy here, I just got the board's packet, and nowhere in here can I find a copy of the minutes. I looked online and I didn't see them online either. Are they in the board? Do you have them in your packet there?
They should have been online.
They were online, because I just downloaded them this morning.
I got it in my report then.
It would be the first item.
Right,
Right after the agenda.
I'm pretty sure they were online, but we can make copies
They're
for you
online,
if
I
you
see
need
them
to.
online.
They should be online.
Can't find them in here, I mean,
Okay.
thought I'm overlooking. Thank you.
All right. Okay, anybody else? Okay, there's plenty of refreshments tonight, and we sure appreciate you sticking around tonight and chatting, and have a good night, and we'll see you next month. It's July already.